Hello YouTube, this is Tonstad39, and I'd like to commemorate something incredible, as on this day in 1995, the Sony PlayStation was released here in the United States of America. Now, what does PlayStation's launch have any significance to gaming? Asking Nintendo, PC, and Xbox fanboys. Well, I'll tell you. Prior to PlayStation's release, CD consoles were shit. You had the CDI, which was infamous for making lots of spaghetti, the 3DO that berated every console, calling them baby toys even though its games only were glitchy and consisted of interactive cutscenes. The Sega CD didn't really add on to anything either other than Sonic CD, and the TurboGrafx CD was basically all that shit you can get on your PC already. Now, these were the CD consoles of the day. And then along came Sony, who basically said, no, you know what, let's put the games first and then the multimedia. And so it was unveiled at the CES, or the Consumer Electronics Show, and then it was eventually announced, and then finally it was released in Japan on December the 3rd of 1994. Never made it stateside until September the 9th of 2015. Such a monumentous day in gaming history. Some of you might have grown up with a PS1. Wouldn't be surprising since it sold over 100 million units from its lifespan from 1995 to 2006. And so, one cool thing that PlayStation did was they hired indie game devs for hire. So what that basically did was that made every demographic accessible through PlayStation. Now, here are a list of games generated off the top of my head that were PlayStation exclusive. You had Twisted Metal, you had the Metal Gear Solid, you had the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, the Spyro trilogy, you had the Croc series, you also had Pac-Man World, you had the Tekken series, you had the Final Fantasy series, and they appealed to every demographic you can think of. So no matter what age or gender you are, the PlayStation will have at least one game that appeals to you. And no, I'm not just selling myself out. That is really what they did. And then, in the year 2000, they blew every other console out of the water. When CDs were still commonplace, and then suddenly, at E3 of 2000, boom! The PS2, PlayStation 2, with the DVD-ROM drive. Yes, some of the earlier games were CD, but the PlayStation 2, DVD-ROM drives, in an era when DVD players were ass expensive. And also another cool thing about the PS2, backwards compatible, innovative technology, and other cool stuff. And it also doubles as a DVD player. Now, mind you, that it didn't come with any games. The PS2 didn't come with any games. It didn't come with a second controller. It just came with one controller and one memory card in the console itself. Now, how do you think that the PS2 wound up selling over 121 million units? Well, I'll tell you. That's because the PS2 was... It was sustained off of games, and that's what kept it to the lengthy lifespan of 2000 all the way out to 2012. That's right. Amongst the Xbox One, amongst the fledgling Wii U and the 3DSs, the PS2 was still going on. And then, boom, even though it didn't really have any significance to much, the PS3 comes out with Blu-ray, again in an era when Blu-ray players were expensive, which appeal to the multimedia sector because it could do Netflix and other cool stuff, and you could watch Blu-ray movies on it, unlike the Xbox 360 where you can just watch HD DVD. Now, all granted, the PS3 was a staggeringly was very expensive at first, roughly $300 expensive, but eventually the cost was lowered and the PS3 became an accessible system for really anyone. And Xbox was just sort of the other console was just sort of the other console. Yes, it gives you the runaround, it gives you some runaround with PSN, but the PS3 carries on a legacy. And to this day, shovelware games are still coming out for the PlayStation 3. Think it's incredible? I wouldn't blame you. And now, and that legacy continued with the PS4, something I don't know a whole lot about. I just know that it's a console that exists. And cheers to 20 years. Hope to enjoy 20 more years of PlayStation if the gaming industry can keep active with DLC and whatnot. And this is Tonstead39, over and out.